What is up, YouTube? I mentioned in one of the previous videos that I have not had any time to do anything. But, being optimistic today, brought the Falcon to the shop, and we'll see what happens. I'm really doubting it, but let me turn you guys around. Blue Sporty sitting over here. That is that small one, needs to get done. All of these niches need to get done. There's about 80 of those boxes everywhere before I can get the Falcon into the shop. These fence railings or hand railings have been taking up most of my time. Got 5 of them coated, 2 more to finish up today. Still working on blasting, so I'm living in the blast booth for the last extended amount of my life, the last couple days at least. Yeah, super fun. Not at all. I only had a buddy that needs some fence fixtures done right away, so rush those because I am going out of town for 4 days and not doing any shop or wrenching on anything. Heading down to Nashville. Take a quick little vacation before we start jamming away on the rest of these. I think I posted a quick little picture of the Honda and the Sporty. Honda we're going to be full steam ahead on as soon as I get back and I get all of these projects out of here. So the goal for today is trying to coat 80 of these boxes and the rest of those fence railings, and then I gotta do 1 heat shield and ceramic coating as well for a Harley guy that's going on a trip Friday, I think he leaves. But just a ton of blasting, ton of stuff, lots of patio furniture stuff right now, keeping us nice and busy, which is awesome. Except when you're going out of town and it turns into a mad dash scramble to get everything done before you leave, because people want their stuff, and I don't blame them. But me taking off for a week means that there's a week of work not getting done. Anyways, the Falcon is up here because I need to do an idler arm. So ideally, I was hoping to try and sneak that in at some point today. Not overly optimistic, but I figured I'd bring you guys along with that in case I do get to it. If not, we'll see you next week when I come back. So quick little update on things that we need to do. I'm also trying to chase down an oil leak on this. I know one of them was coming from the plug when I switched over to a roller block. I never plugged the hole that moves from the timing cover to the side of the block on the later models. But we got that one addressed, so I'm still looking to see where else this thing's leaking from. That's the bigger concern right now. Idler arm can wait, but I would like to make sure this thing isn't leaking oil all over my driveway while I'm out of town. There we have it. We'll update you guys a little bit later and see how today goes. I'm waiting on some other stuff before I jump back in the sandblast room and finish up the rest of those railings. But while I'm waiting on stuff to get set up, I'm going to take a quick look at the oil leaks on here. For the most part, it was leaking a ton of oil from, like I said, the dipstick tube. That's expected. 2 cans of brake clean. We're going to start up here with the valve cover. It looks to me a little bit of oil residue on the valve cover corners down here. I do have 1-piece gaskets, the reusable blue ones, on here. I also don't have the PCV hooked up, so it might be coming from this breather and kind of misting. This is far from a fresh motor. Fresh-ish, but it was just to slap some rod bearings and main bearings in and bolt everything back together. I did not spend a ton of time going through this. It's definitely a little on the worn out side. I know that much. That's useless. Let's try a fresh one. Like I said, I don't know where this leak is coming from. But I do know it's on the driver's side of the block. And it looked like it was central up front towards the motor. But that should at least give us a quick reference. Waste a can of brake clean, but that stuff's relatively cheap in the grander scheme. And then now we can kind of monitor. It looks like there might have been a little bit of oil coming out from the oil pressure line fitting. So we can adjust that. And what else was there? I think that was pretty much it. I definitely need to add some extra grounds onto this at some point because my one sketchy ground from slapping it together last year is definitely not doing so well. So I gotta pinch that way just to kind of force some more of the connectors back together, but we'll run a new ground wire down here and eventually clean up some of the wiring, but we don't care about that part yet. All right, so I drove the car here, just sprayed everything down with brake clean. There was only one drop underneath the car. Normally it's been a ton. Before I plugged the side, it was, like I said, leaking like a sieve out of that hole, and I mean, it essentially had a hole in the block. It's from the dipstick tube that usually on the late model roller cam motors, they come in through the side of the block down here, in between the headers. Since this is in a 70s car, I ran everything off the front timing assembly. So I put a front sump on there, and then the dipstick tube comes in from the front timing cover. I think that kit came with a little Welsh plug. It's like a 1/8 inch, I think, or 3/8 inch tiny plug that goes into the side of the block. I didn't put that in. So I got a silicone powder coating cap in there, or a plug in there. If that works, awesome. If not, I'm probably gonna put some RTV around it. And then, like I said, for the breather, I know it's smoking out the breather because I have two open breathers. I don't have the PCV hooked up. So eventually I'll get the right one for this and run a hose into the breather, or I can tap it into the back since I'm not running any power brakes. That's kind of where we're at. I left a big old mess on the ground, wait for the brake clean to dry and see what we get later on today. Well, my dumbass took the Falcon. It's raining. I didn't have working wipers. So I started messing around with it. I know they were kind of intermittent, and then realized I have a grounding issue, which is probably why my taillight light keeps coming on and off every time I hit a bump. So I gotta chase down the grounds on this. That's definitely for sure quick on the to-do list. I was over optimistic. No idler arm installed today because I don't have room in the shop with all the crap that I have there work-wise. So intermittent grounds. Gave the kid at my shop some crap today because his car wouldn't start over a ground cable that he's been putting off replacing for about 6 months. Says me, who drives this to the shop knowing that the wipers are intermittent, and then same thing, realized that the grounds are bad. So in terms of that, I got one ground from the battery to the motor. I definitely need to go through all the chassis grounds. I think that's gonna fix 90% of my problems. Everything works when it should, but when you're driving, they kind of cut in and out, which to me is the telltale sign of a bad ground. So we'll put a nice ground post in here. Now it's off to the bank, a little more choring. Then our recap at the house. That's where we're at. Hopefully I don't die.